Take a moment to think of just finally making new Kirblogs. Take a moment to think of just finally making new Kirblogs. Here come some thoughts on Steven Universe's new plots and all their madness. They were great, they were great, they were great, they were great, they were great. We want more, we want more, we want more, we want more, we want more. Kaiser Nucko has joined me to talk about how good they were. Right now, right now, right now. And I am so sorry I have destroyed how beautiful that song was. I hope you'll find it in your hearts to forgive me. I know Scott won't. Hi.
Hi, Curb.
Oh, wow,
Honestly,
you're not seething
honestly,
angry.
It took everything for me not to cut in when you said, they were great, they were great, they were great, they were great, they were great. And I was going to chime in with, some were not, some were not, some were not, some were not, some were not.
Good. Great way to start this off. No, good attitude to go in with. Well, either way, I do. Then again, that is what I bring you on here for, is because I just love your misery. I mean your opinions that I totally agree with.
Conflicting healthy opinions, Curb. Opinions on cartoons.
Well, we did God, it's been a while. I don't even remember, like, we did the initial Steven Universe Kirblog, like, might have been, like, last year, like, maybe even a year ago. I don't even remember how long ago it was, but it was in the midst of the second season, and I was reminded by some kind gentleman on Tumblr, or lady, I'm not sure. I'm assuming they're a guy because they have Ben in their name. MCXP Ben. Said, could you do a Kirblog about Steven after the end of Season 3? It would be good to hear more love for Steven Universe. And not only are we going to do that, but my God, we went through all of Season 3 and a pretty okay amount of Season 4 in the last, God, what, like 4 months, I think?
Yeah,
in May?
They that summer of Steven, man.
It was a literal summer of Steven, because I wasn't even sure, like, how seriously to take, like, the marketing of that. I was like, oh no, you meant a literal summer, an entire summer and beyond.
You know what the last one was? The last one we did was back in June. Yeah, June
of last year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well. Yeah. I mean, so obviously we've had sprinkled episodes in for a while since then, but we had a whole multitude of basically different kind of arcs, some of which were sort of bleeding into each other. And I figured, like, there's been so much more, and there's plenty that we can say and talk about with this. So I guess just to start off, actually, before we even start talking about it, obviously, spoilers everywhere. So if you were not caught up with Steven Universe, plenty of ways to do so. The Cartoon Network app, I believe, has a lot of the latest episodes on it. So please do that if you have not. Otherwise, we'll be, talking about all of the crazy, crazy shit that's happened in the last 4 months. So not the least of which, we basically started with the, I guess, long-awaited and now seems so behind us by this point, battle with Malachite.
Oh, man.
With the kind of lighthearted, kind of cutesy Super Watermelon Island was the beginning, and then immediately followed by Gem Drill. Well, actually, no, not even just the Malachite fight, but the cluster coming to pass. Both were the beginning of Season 3. And my God, like, I guess, where do you want to start with this?
Let's touch on Malachite, because I feel like much like with Alexandrite, Malachite kind of was an anticlimax for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of liked it using. I kind of like the idea of using Super Watermelon Island. The whole island as a way to kind of set everything up. It introduced us to more of Steven's powers. It was just a really creative episode artistically, very funny. But the fact that after all that build-up with Lapis, the nightmares, the dreams, the visions that we were getting via Steven, suddenly, here's Malachite. Mm-hmm. And she is an intimidating, ferocious opponent, but she's defeated in one fight.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of came down to the fight itself it wasn't a bad fight, but it also just, it did not carry a lot of weight I didn't feel like there was any fallout from it besides, oh well, we got Lapis back, but then off goes Jasper into the earth. I don't know. I don't know. I feel weird about Malachite, especially considering that I liked the fallout more later that we got from it. Yeah, that was a lot more satisfying, but the actual fight itself was just kind of there for me.
It's interesting. I can't remember if we did bring this up in the last discussion we did, but I know that if not, we've definitely talked just, personally about how there are times where we definitely wish that the show, would have a half an hour format, of which it did actually during the season. We'll get to that a little bit later, but yes. I think that this is one that it certainly would have been cool. I think because of my expectations with just the way that the format of everything had been for so long, where, all right, well, everything, doesn't necessarily get resolved in 11 minutes, but everything happens in these 11-minute chunks. I think I was kind of expecting this fight to be as quick as it was. So I think with that expectation, the fight itself, I'm sure you would agree, still animated, choreographed really well, had lots of cool powers. Funnily enough, you were joking about Alexandrite, and I wasn't even thinking that it was going to be between the two of them, but that made so much sense given the size. The fight itself I thought was cool, and the fallout of it, and having Lapis back in the groove again, and Jasper, being left to her devices for a little bit, I felt was satisfying enough. What wasn't so satisfying, and I'm sure you're probably going to think this was more so, was the cluster. Honestly,
oh man.
When it comes to build up, that was something I was expecting was going to go over the course of a couple episodes. But similarly, this one I think this one suffered from the time allotment a lot more than the Malachite fight did. It made sense and it worked for what it was. And there's a part of me that is thinking realistically, not just as an excuse for it or whatever, but I'm thinking that something with the cluster is going to come back into play way later from now, especially when and if the diamonds get involved, if they end up going to Earth or something. But yeah, as far as everything about it for so long, and then it's just oh, okay, well, I guess this is all right, but it's certainly not the hype that I think a lot of people were probably thinking of.
Well, you're telling us that there is something within the planet that is effectively a bomb that will destroy the planet, or at least, basically turn it into a giant weapon.
Mm-hmm.
You send two characters down there alone by themselves, and you've already made these huge stakes against them. They get down there, and the way that it's handled, I don't know if making this episode 20 minutes would have helped, but just the fact that it all came down to Steven. It bothers me a little bit because there was so much going into that. And yeah, Peridot helped, but just bubbling it. That's what just bubble it. Boom. And yeah, sure, it was a huge bubble, an incredible bubble. And maybe that is supposed to speak to Steven's overall latent abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just something so and the idea that it was this sentient creature was also fascinating. I loved that. The idea that at any moment it could just have gone crazy. But there was just so much build up. They spent so many episodes on that friggin' drill, man.
Mm-hmm.
How many episodes did we oh yeah, it was in the middle of building the drill. Oh yeah, we're still building the drill. Hey, let's have Steven's birthday party. Let's have a scene where we talk about Garnet with Peridot.
Yeah, the barn saga, as it was.
Oh yeah, the barn saga. That's exactly what that was, and yeah, it wasn't wholly unsatisfying, but by and large, considering that the show had won me over with all of its major conflicts until that point, it was really frustrating that two major conflicts just did not come to a head as I felt like they should have. At least they did not pay off to in after their build up. Which that's okay because the aftermath of Malachite was fine. So
what made up for it entirely was it's funny how a lot of these were kind of little mini multi-episode arcs in a way. Because what came right after that was basically the Lapis joining the crew, pair of episodes with, her and Peridot becoming barnmates, as one of them was called. Those made for some incredibly interesting character dynamics and new combinations of characters that we hadn't really gotten to experience in the way that we have before. That honestly, as soon as we were getting into the thick of that stuff, and I'll even say too, I think that it's unfortunately, it's fairly common knowledge that some of the stuff with these episodes was leaked. There were some screenshots of Lapis looking all grumpy at Peridot that kind of spread around a little bit. I think one of the European Cartoon Network divisions or something might have leaked a commercial out or something like that.
A lot of stuff got. There were so many leaks.
Yeah, which it's unfortunate, and that's one of those things where it's like, if you can muster the ability to hold off on that for the sake of the creators who, want, for very good reason, you to experience just as it is. I was an idiot and I just happened across those, sifting around on Tumblr, and, that was my mistake. But either way, even knowing that, and I think that it was a fair thing to predict that eventually Lapis was going to, become one of the good guys, especially considering Peridot eventually did. I think I think that these few episodes all kind of coupled together, including the baseball episode, which is legit one of my favorites, and I know I'm so in the minority for that. But this little mini arc with Lapis and Peridot sort of getting to know each other, I felt was a lot of fun. They're really funny, cute episodes, and also really important in terms of very, very good character development for these relatively new fixtures into the world, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I love Peridot and Lapis, and their development into friends was just honestly, Lapis and Peridot have quickly become a couple of my favorite characters in the entire show.
I think the fandom would agree with you.
No, Lapis Lazuli is the exact amount of cynicism and frankness that none of the Garnet is frank, but she's always so optimistic or realistic. Meanwhile, Lapis is much more human. She's got more emotion. But she's also more cynical because of it. So while Garnet is just blunt, Lapis is I don't know. There's just something about her that is so spectacular. I every time she's on screen, I just want to know how she's going to interact with every other character.
And they've really come a long way for me anyway too, because I remember when both Lapis and Peridot first showed up, as they were introduced in the rest of the show.
Oh, Lapis is very different than she used to be.
Oh yeah, and I mean in a way Peridot too. I mean even design wise, the way that they're drawn, and not just the actual character designs, but just the actual way that they're illustrated. Much in a funnily enough kind of way, the way that by the time you think about, especially with how much DBZ is clearly kind of an influence on the story and everything, you remember when a lot of the characters are first introduced, that would later become, the Z Fighters, when they're first introduced, and the grand majority of them were introduced as villains or just some kind of rival or enemy or something flat out, they were drawn very, imposing and mean. But even Vegeta, who arguably he's still an asshole, he's drawn so differently and still kind of in a way that's relatable and to where he could be believable as a good guy compared to when he first shows up with Nappa in the beginning of Z. You look at the way that Lapis and Peridot are illustrated, where Lapis is so she's less dreary-eyed or whatever. Now she's just I need my coffee. And now Peridot went from sniveling Starscream type of, second in command villain to now she's a fucking goofball cartoon character.
And the development of these characters is there's nothing out of character for either of them. After what happened to Lapis, it's more understandable that she is more now much, well, I wouldn't say she has a much harder edge to her. She's been through hell, came out the other side, and there's no scene that I feel better portrays what her character is now than when she slaps down the Ruby ship. not a lot of people like understand, or like not a lot of people keep it in mind that Lapis is one of the strongest gems. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like you think about like all of these characters in general, and like they all have something kind of like deeper to them that doesn't always come into play because the stakes, they the stakes in the show shift from oh my god the world is gonna die, to oh my god, which we'll get into the townspeople episodes, but like something as simple as like, oh, does everybody like Lars, or oh, is Kiki gonna be okay, at the drop of a hat, like and yet they'll still feel like the world is coming to an end with how like important that whatever the stakes of the episode are, kind of thing.
that's because
But like,
Steven Universe knows how to bring down, like, while I'll get into the importance and the plot importance of those episodes later, at least when it does get down to the very human episodes, and literally the human episodes, the ones that focus on the townspeople, it's all about crafting a story that it's important to these characters. It's important to their day-to-day lives, and you care about them because you care about the characters. Even if the stakes aren't huge, even if it's not, going to end, like, it's not going to end in the destruction of the town, but it might end in the destruction of a relationship, and you don't want to see that happen. Steven Universe, that's what it's all about. It's kind of interesting how it tries to balance out the human side and the alien side, much like with Steven.
yeah. Well, I have some specific thoughts I want to talk about that, but before we got into the woods of some of those episodes again, once we finished up the Lapis and Peridot stuff with the barn, we had another little 3 episodes worth of stuff, ultimately leading into one of the most incredible episodes that I was very excited about for a while, which is this Greg arc. Starting off with this kind of like, oh, well, here's this stuff. Well, first of all, we had Stephen Floats, which was a cute little one, just kind of diving into him getting a new power, which was a fun little purely Stephen episode that we don't get very often. With it, it's just him more or less by himself. Mm-hmm. And then we had Drop Beat Dad, which had a kind of surprising return of Captain Douche Canoe, whose name is escaping me.
Not Larry.
Marty, yeah.
Marty.
Some white ass like bullshit name like that. Who he looks like he stepped out of like a dejected Simpson episode. That was an interesting one. Like actually more interesting than I was expecting it to be. With him coming back, who I was not expecting him to come back at all.
I'm not. I knew he was going to come back.
Because Vidalia was like, okay, yeah, she makes sense for her to still be here. Marty, I figured just like he's gone or dead in a gutter.
The reason I knew he would come back is because they set up so heavily that he was Sour Cream's dad. Mm-hmm. Like everyone suspected it, and I'm like, you know what? If that is true, he will be back. And lo and behold, here he is.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. Maybe I just was surprised at that still somehow, but it ended up making for like a pretty interesting kind of episode, and like
I still find it amazing that they literally just banged in the back of Greg's van. Like it's heavily
and a child was born that day.
Well, conceived.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, no, it's pretty hilarious because they walk out of that van, and we're to assume that's the only time.
And then Vidalia becomes like, oh, she's actually, because she's totally presented as like almost kind of like a slut character or whatever. And then like we actually see her later. I'm like, oh, she's actually really cool. I like her a lot. And Marty was a dick. So
first of all, what's wrong with sluts? Second of all,
nothing. I mean, you make great business doing that. Let's be honest here.
Sweetheart.
But me too. Well, I mean, after that, God, I mean, where do I even fucking begin with Mr. Greg? Wow.
Okay. So, yeah, you're right. I thought Stephen Floats was mostly forgettable, if I had to be completely honest. It is a cute episode. There are a couple of cute episodes that are totally forgettable to me. Steven Floats is kind of one of them. It introduces us to Rose's floating power, which was only hinted at before. So it is cool that we got some of that. But no, Drop Beat Dad was amazing just to see Marty be the worst character in the show. The worst possible character in the show. Out of a character with tons of people that you'd love to hate.
Yeah, well, then again,
Yellow Diamond sitting over in the corner going, wow, what an asshole.
Well, I mean, she doesn't think she's an asshole. She's just like, no, I just want the planet to die. I mean,
I know,
but
even the evil gem woman who wants the planet to die would think that this guy is like too low.
Yeah, White Diamond's gonna have to try really hard to top Marty in terms of hateableness.
Yep, it's all up to White Diamond. But no, Drop Beat Dad was great, but Mr. Greg is one of those episodes that kills me that it is so short, but does so much in its 11-minute runtime.
Oh yeah. It made it full. I mean, that's another one where it's like you'd think like, wow, like this would benefit, but no, it filled all 11 of those minutes so fucking beautifully. And like the prospect of, because you think about it, like Steven Universe is a very musically inclined show where that is a massive part of the storytelling of everything with it. And to think it's like, oh, here we are with a full musical style episode, and it's like, you know, because we had a lot of really incredible ones like all scattered throughout this one just by itself, like even without like, even if I would imagine that even somebody without the full context of everything behind why this episode is you know so important in the grand scheme.
That song at the end, I played that song for a friend of mine, and she was blown away. And she's like, "This is in Steven Universe," and I'm like, "Yep."
Yeah.
She's like, "This."
And she hadn't been following the show.
No, this is Amber, and she's like, "Oh my god, this sounds like something from a Broadway show." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's exactly it." Like, and it makes sense too, what with her get up and the presentation. No, the song we're talking about obviously is "It's Over," isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And "It's Over," like that song is one of the most heartbreaking, painful songs in the entire series. For one line that kills me every time I hear it. Who am I now in this world without her? Petty and boring. Oh no. What was it? Petty and dull with the nerve to doubt her. What does it matter? It's already done. Now I have to be there for her son.
Mm-hmm.
It is gut-wrenching because in that one line, she lays it out on the table that the woman that she loved is gone, and now she is petty, she is boring, and all she has left is to take care of the son that they bore from the man that took her heart.
Yeah.
It is harsh. In this kids cartoon, it's like this is the plot.
Yeah.
This woman like tearing herself apart trying to get over the like a unrequited love. Oh my god.
And to those, by the way, as well, if you haven't done a search on, I believe it's on Rebecca's, it might not be originally, it might be on either Jeff Liu or Ian Cordy's Tumblrs, but please do a search for the storyboards and original concepts of that sequence of that song, because my god, the animation and the animation quality is always relatively consistent. This one in particular, the expressiveness of every frame of Pearl throughout that song, and her walking on the banister, you know, and coming back to Steven, and then Greg at the end hearing her, it's like mwah, like just that, if that episode in of itself does not get, like, you know, because The Answer recently got I believe not, I forget if it was nominated for or won an award. If Mr. Greg does not, for that, you know, 2 minutes alone, that's a crime against all animation.
Yeah.
The Why Don't You Talk to Each Other as well. I actually liked even more for just like the use of color in that, and like Pearl and Greg like laying down, and that whole part of them actually talking to each other, and Steven on the piano. It's like the whole thing is beautiful.
If you want my honest opinion, The opening song is fun. Forgettable, not entirely forgettable, but it is not the showcase of the episode. It's over, isn't it? Definitely the showcase. It is
Yeah.
one of the best songs in the entire show.
Yeah, and Dee Dee Magno Hall like just knocked that shit out of the park. Like she has a tried and true fucking Broadway level voice. Like my God.
What's the name of the last song? The actual name of it?
I don't know if it's Why Don't You Talk to Each Other, but it's the final one with Steven on the piano.
Yeah. Both of you.
Right.
Yeah. Both of you succeeds mainly for two reasons. One, Zach Callison has this fascinating voice. That whenever he hits a high note, he drops down to this really soft tone that just kills it. Every time I hear him drop, like every time he goes into his falsetto, it sounds like as silly as this is gonna sound, it sounds almost like an angel. Like a little angel, like singing that line, and it's kind of fascinating because he
does have an angel-like baby face for certain.
But it's so fascinating, and the other thing is the piano. The piano kills it. Unfortunately, and this is the other side of that. Remember when I said I really wished that it was 20 minutes?
Right.
The conflict between Pearl and Greg had been seething very much under the surface the entire time. It rarely poked itself out much in the present. It was usually much more noticeable in flashback scenes.
Yeah.
But we all had to know that there was still something there. And the idea that it is not only confronted and resolved in one 11-minute episode is a little aggravating, especially considering we don't even get to that part until after a third into the episode. Like the last 2/3 of the 11 minutes are confronting and resolving that issue, and it's kind of painful.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, it's another reminder of like, oh, I wish, but at the same time, this one, like, just because, again, like the usage of literally every second of this episode was so masterfully paced out and so well executed that I was able to live with it. And I'm like, you know what? This is still incredible. I am totally on board with this. It worked. It worked for me.
The episode did work for me. And again, beautiful, beautiful middle. And the ending is a good song. It's a really good song, well delivered. But from a plot point of view, it's just a little aggravating that it was so easily dealt with is all.
Do you think it's worth talking about? Because I don't know. We've talked a little bit about this off camera too. I keep saying off camera. Fuck's sake. There's no camera. There's no face cam. Jesus Christ. With Tom Sharpling's his vocal range in terms of singing, which now because I know that you're not a big fan.
I know nobody who is.
Well, okay, and fair enough, because it is it is not like the rest of the general sound of the main cast, because, you know, even like Michaela Dietz, who has a scratchier voice, but her, Dee Dee Hall, Estelle, Zach Callison, they all have very beautiful sounding voices. Tom Sharpling does not, but I think because of the fact that to me, it seems very clear by the fact that he specifically was cast as this character. To me, it comes off as it was so intentional that, okay, he doesn't have a beautiful sounding voice. He sounds like a dude. He sounds like a junkie out of his garage. You know, like, I want to make a band, I want to do music, and etc. Performer.
I might not have minded so much if he didn't keep getting songs. Like, well, no, he does. He keeps getting songs, though. He keeps getting songs, and they never sound as good as everyone else. It's not even a difference in sound. It's just he's not as good a singer. And
I guess it's because, like, Greg himself is such a, like, he himself is such a rough around the edges, like, because you could even still argue the fact that, like, he could be considered kind of a deadbeat and kind of a loser at times, even though we like him and he's a good guy and he's a good character, but he, in the scheme of the world, is kind of a loser at times. So him having this rough around the edges, non-beautiful voice, for some reason, it doesn't, like, detract from me. I don't know.
But you can have somebody who can still sing well and still have a good sounding singing voice and still have them be that character. You have grunge singers, like you have rock singers who sound perfect for that sort of thing. Like
Right.
my honest opinion is, I love him as Greg. Like I could not imagine anybody else coming, like any other voice coming out of Greg universe. That being said, I don't like his singing, and
That's fair.
it aggravates me. But I can deal with it for the most part because it's not grating. There's nothing grating about it. It's just not good.
Well, moving from one sad note, or rather one annoying to you note to another, let's talk about the first round of townspeople episodes that came up in season 3.
What was the first round of those?
So this was the racing with the jerk Kevin guy
Kevin.
episode, the Lars episode, the with the amusement park one. Obviously, Kiki's
That wasn't the
pizza
first
delivery
round,
service.
was it? I can't.
Yeah,
remember
that was right after Mr. Greg. We jumped into like a few good weeks. No, actually, rather this was back when it was like 5 episodes a week. I think that was
a
like
lot of those were later.
yeah. That was right after Mr. Greg. We had like a good like week and a half or so of the townspeople episodes.
Hold on, I'm trying to remember because I know that we had Drop Be Dead, Mr. Greg, Too Short to Ride. Okay. Oh, you know what? You're right. Sheesh. Okay, yeah, no. Okay, before we get into this, I do personally believe that there were plenty of still good episodes out of these. But yeah. The preface is, so while I really, really do like the idea of balancing out the human stuff with the gem stuff, it is aggravating to me that the plot is moving as slowly as it is right now.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things that are there are huge things going on, huge things in machination, and we're not seeing any of them. We're too busy, with helping Kiki out with her pizza delivery and Initial D drift racing Kevin.
But more so, it's you could say at the same time, it's helping this person stand up to her sister when she's unknowingly being manipulated / helping Steven and Connie get over an obsession that they don't need to have that is kind of unhealthy for them is really what those episodes are, and that's
no,
the thing.
they're all about the morals.
Yeah.
Like all of Steven Universe is about teaching one moral or another, which I am actually totally okay with because the stories are compelling, the characters are compelling, they're interesting, they're dynamic, and that's what makes them good. I like stories with morals.
I think what bothers a lot of people about when rounds of episodes, not just you, but when these rounds of episodes come up, especially in the midst of the crazier shit going on, I think it's because it reminds a lot of people about because I think it's fair to say, unfortunately for better or worse, that a lot of people when they try to get newer folks into the show, they always, in my viewing, have to preface with the first season takes a long time to get going, but once you get to the finale of the first season, it gets really, really cool and lots of crazy, awesome shit happens kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when these episodes of just Steven having fun adventures and not the more dramatic, more, plot heavy in the grand scheme of the gem stuff going on, things are coming, it's like, but I want to get back to that, come on, kind of thing, The reason that I think that these episodes are important, though, Steven is basically learning how to be, more or less, in a, less traditional kind of way, like a hero. He's learning how to be a protector of Earth, more or less.
Yeah.
And I think that even though the world in which he lives in, regarding, this little rundown, or not rundown, but this little tiny city in the middle of, buttfuck nowhere, more or less, with these people that are in his lives, and he is a genuine part of all their lives. Like, you could say that Steven probably knows to some extent almost every person living in Beach City. I think that the things that he's learning as a result of them in the, he's like, is he 13, I think, in the birthday episode? Was he 13, 14 years old? I forget.
I think he's 14.
Okay.
Which he's got some friggin' Son Goku shit going on.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because that was an episode. English. the things that he's learning from the rest of these people, and the things that everybody else in town are learning from him. From the people his age, or the people who are younger than him, that are his age, that are a little bit older than him, like the teenagers, and even the full-fledged adults. Like, he's helping these people, and they're feeding the fact that he is a genuinely good person. And it shows, Shady and I were talking a lot about these sort of themes, and we were talking about BoJack Horseman this past weekend. But like the mistakes that Steven is making, and also like Connie is even making, which we'll get to later with her episode. But yeah, I mean, I think that, well, I'll even argue too that this batch, these recent couple batches, also the one that we're in the middle of with season 4 right now, I think are the strongest in terms of all of them. I've taken something away with. It's like every time I was watching these, every day as they were coming out, I was like, man, I really genuinely got something out of that. Like, that was actually a really good lesson, and I'm glad that this was an episode. Like, I don't mind that this is like buying some time until, or not buying time, but carrying us over until we get back to the heavier shit.
Well, if I had to be completely honest, if we're talking about, well, first before we do that, I just want to say, Beach City Drift, the one with Kevin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't like parts of that episode just because I don't like the idea that they just suddenly learn how to drive out of nowhere. That was really awkward. But there is something about that episode that I really do like, because it teaches 2 lessons. One that is flat, plainly said, very Confucius. Don't drink poison and hope the other person to die. Like, they're obsessed with him, and really all that does is just upsets them more and frustrates them more, and they're obsessed with someone that they can't do anything about. He's going to continue to be an asshole no matter what. Mm-hmm. But one thing that they had in there that this also played into the first time we ever met Stevani, and that's when they were talking about how Kevin made them feel uncomfortable and would not stop even though they said no.
Yeah.
And that was fascinating to me.
And that is difficult. That is difficult to talk about on Cartoon Network daytime hours.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's impossible. That's impossible for most cartoons to do ever. So when this cartoon literally brings up the idea of consent and how uncomfortable that people ignoring said consent can be, both frustrating and terrifying.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing, and their frustration and their rage at him made so much sense when you think about it from that angle. Now, of course, ultimately it was something that they had to let go, which I think is also a very good thing to process. Like, no matter what, you can't let it consume you. You've got to move past that thing. Trauma is difficult, but one of the first things you do is accept it and move on.
Yeah, even if you do, which they did, confront the person in question, and especially in tandem with the fact that, like, they had both somewhat of an understanding and also somewhat of a lack of understanding, mainly because of their age. But the fact that, like, they were acting on those feelings, and they weren't burying them, and they were wanting to be proactive with, doing something, even if it wasn't, necessarily the healthiest choice. They weren't just sitting by and being like, oh, fuck it, whatever. Like, when it came back up, it was like they did. I think that something that not all kids that age placed in those kind of situations would even know how to do, because different people sometimes don't even know how to process that shit. Like, it's so, like, it's such a slippery slope, and it's so like, what just happened to me, And that episode was like a long time ago by this point too, when you think about it. Like, I mean, the amount of time that passes in it.
That was July.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like the episode where they meet Kevin and they fuse for the first time.
That one. Ago. Oh yeah, that feels that.
Was that season 1 actually?
That might have been. I know. Stefani?
Maybe not.
I'm pretty sure that was season 2.
Okay. Well, either way. But overall, I think that this was definitely the nicest batch that we had of the townsfolk episodes. I think that these were all generally really solid. And then
what? Actually, never mind. No, Stefani was season 1. Huh.
Was it? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. So I mean, for one thing, it also still makes me happy. We've said ad nauseum about how good it is that they have this level of consistency with everything, and that things from all the way back then still come into play, and they still have good stories to tell with all these things. I mean, I wonder about like, because I don't know like the full like, you know, how far ahead the production process is and everything. I'm sure that a lot of the more like serious stuff is planned, but I actually do wonder about if maybe like, actually this is worth bringing up because we're going to get to the 100th episode in particular a little bit later, but I do wonder about if maybe like, okay, we want to have this episode be the 100th episode, right? So I wonder about if maybe we gotta have like let's have like X number of townsfolk episodes in between all of the more plot heavy ones to kind of get us to that number. I don't know if I'm totally like just theorizing here.
It is possible, although like you know what? Yes, that is where Restaurant Wars came from. That's where Restaurant Wars. That's. I knew it. That had to come from somewhere. Restaurant Wars and Onion Gang are two of the episodes that I could happily put in a little box and send down the river and never see again.
Come on, you don't like Garbanzo.
I'll talk about that one in a minute, but no. Let's talk about the important episode. The episodes 99 and 100.
All right. Actually, before we get to that, before we get to that, so let's build up to 100 because before that is basically the Jasper arc.
Wait, hold on. Is that the full Jasper?
Yeah, that's before that. That is so after the the last, and even then I wouldn't even call this a townsfolk one, but it's it's kind of leading into the more serious stuff as the one with the centipedal, which was shockingly heartbreaking. And my God, I never thought I would give such a shit about a character like that. That one, very, very sweet, very like, oh God, like the talking about the expressions as well, like centipedal crying and freaking out, and like the drawings it was making to tell the story and everything, which props to D. Bradley Baker, who voiced the centipedal, and many people will know for a lot of stuff, but obviously he was all of the creature noises for the Avatar franchise.
D. Bradley Baker is literally, he's the creature guy in the industry.
Yeah.
He will always have he's rock solid. He'll never go anywhere.
He's this generation's Frank Welker, more or less, in terms of that. But did a splendid job portraying like how fucking tragic that monster was. I liked them, and I'm hoping that the centipedal gang will maybe be like some sort of backup squad for
I
the
definitely
good guys.
want to return to them sometime. There are a bunch of adorable, disgusting, terrifying, lovely creatures who.
I want toys of them.
Dude, we want toys of all of them. God damn it,
Cartoon Network. You hear that shit? We'll buy it all. So then we had Alone at Sea, which had the most unexpectedly terrifying return of Jasper, because the getting down on one knee and, oh God, please take me back shit, I was like, oh my God.
Okay, no. That stuff is... Okay, I thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to touch on this. Jasper asking Lapis to take her back is really disturbing, and it's also not just because of what happened to them, but because of how real it is. Dysfunctional relationships, and this is about. I'm going to speak about Lapis here about that too, but Jasper wants to convince her that there is something to come back to, that they are better together. There was something there that Jasper wanted, when really she hasn't changed. She won't get better. She just wants that feeling back. She's so desperate to have that relationship. Meanwhile, Lapis, we find out in a gut-wrenching twist that in fact Lapis enjoyed part of it. There was a part of her that enjoyed taking her frustrations and her hate and her sadness out on Jasper. And I have seen people outwardly cast this like disdainful gaze down upon Lapis as if she's the villain there. And it's like, no, Jasper's the villain. Lapis is just a girl who did the wrong thing and is trying to like admit to it. Lapis did
Yeah.
something wrong, and she says like, no, I can't do that again. I liked making you feel bad. This is her recognizing that. And people got mad about the fact that Jasper was painted as the villain. I'm like, are you...
Yeah. I mean, well, for one thing, I don't want to focus too much on that, but I will say I don't take anybody seriously who gets upset about the conflicts and those kind of things with people, because that is important. That's part of the whole package of this. Like, it is extremely important that those characters go through those kind of pieces of development. And like, in tandem with what you were bringing up with Lapis, like admitting that, the other thing too that she says is like, yeah, but I'm awful too. It's like, oh my God, like it's so real, even though it's presented in this like sci-fi, kind of way, because it's like, oh, we were literally merged together into one being and we're like trapped at the bottom of the ocean. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the metaphors of what comes with that are so incredibly fucking poignant. And just Alone at Sea's second half, when like the weather gets fucking dark and Jasper jumps out of the goddamn ocean, it's like, oh, like I wasn't even expecting that to happen that quickly either. Like, the fact that like this whole kind of like 6 or so episodes worth of the shit with Jasper happening was incredibly shocking. Like it was no, actually no, even more than that, because it went further. But yeah, it was Jesus. So kind of going after that, then we had some of this stuff happen with Amethyst, which I was very.
Jim.
Oh God, that's the thing. Okay, so Amethyst, I was very, very happy about this, because Amethyst, I felt like for a while was the character that was getting, and this is just kind of the product of like there's only so much you can do at once. Amethyst was getting the least amount of attention in terms of her development. We had a lot of Pearl stuff, pretty fair amount of Garnet stuff, obviously a consistent amount of Steven stuff. Amethyst, wasn't really touched upon too deeply for a while, it seemed like. So getting like this heavy an amount of stuff that went with her was really cool. And again, in a way that I didn't expect, because, she comes off as so like, yeah, man, whatever, like such a like confident, cool kind of thing. To see, a whole length of stuff about how incredibly self-conscious of herself that she is, like this part of the season had so many unexpectedly cool surprises that came with it, and stuff that again was so poignant and so well executed, and like, because I mean, when you're watching any show, it's fun to keep you guessing. But to get the satisfaction out of what comes from this stuff, like the bond that her and Steven formed out of that whole exchange, from fighting each other to working together to eventually fusing, which I flipped my shit when that happened.
I fucking lost it. I was like, oh my God. Finally, after how many episodes, we get a fusion of Steven and one of the crystal gems.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And there was another thing, Les. I know that something with that leaked, but I managed to miss that. I managed to dodge that like the day before those episodes were airing, and like thank God, because I still remember. I paused as I was watching it, and I was like, no way. Wow. And then yeah, Smoky Quartz was a thing that was created, and yeah.
Smoky Quartz, first of all, is adorable. And second, has
very alternative design.
Has one of the best soundtracks out of any of the gems.
Mm-hmm.
Like I lost my shit. That the music that plays, the music that accompanies Smoky Quartz is this kind of Anamanaguchi style chiptune bliss. I love it so much.
No, it's Ivy and Steven with the way that they combine the representative instruments of all the major characters. Steven, Sarashu, yes, him. Yeah, I mean, like the two of them in particular, like they are so fucking creative when it comes to like the kind of like it's not even just theming, like the representation of like what all of what all these different instruments and what these different like styles of music mean. It almost kind of reminds me a little bit, not in the exact same way, but like in Sonic Adventure 2, where like all of the playable characters have like their own kind of like genre to them, like how all of the gems and then the combinations of them with the fusions and everything like represent what they are and things about their person. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Like very, very few shows do that. And especially with one that is scored, like with each individual episode is scored, like that is a level, that's just a level of like finesse that I'm so glad that this show has, like over a lot of other ones. So
yeah, one of its biggest selling points is its music. But yeah, no, Smoky Quartz was the perfect culmination to Amethyst's story arc, because Amethyst has always kind of been in the same boat as Steven, where there are these people with so much like passion to help, but are constantly on the fringe because they're not the strongest, they're not the smartest, they have significant shortcomings. And I love that Steven's line of that's why we're the best, like that the worst gems look out for each other. And I'm like, that's so good, because that is exactly, that is something that is a very great lesson, is that if you have to look out for each other. Like if
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Just the other thing that was kind of cool that went along with that, one of my, but there two amazing, like legendary for the whole show moments that I love now, from that episode in particular, from I think Earthlings was that one. That one had both the fusion itself, like just the birth of Smoky Quartz, and also the corruption of Jasper, and her final words, which, not just because because I'll say right here, I'm gonna gloat for a little bit. I was in the camp of thinking that Rose Quartz and Pink Diamond were separate characters, because I know that there was a big theory that it made sense for a lot of people that Rose Quartz might have been Pink Diamond. I was of the camp that Pink Diamond was her own separate character. So that was satisfying from a selfish perspective, but also, more importantly, just that Kimberly Brooks' performance in those last couple sentences, screaming as Jasper turned into this fucking decrepit monster, was so cool. That was some like shonen anime shit of like a really big turning point for a character like that. And I if anything, almost that's like, I think of that more than the fusion, like just because of how fucking intense it was,
It was pretty terrifying. I, as a kid, would have been like messed up by that a little bit, I won't lie. But no, I am so glad, by the way. I was in the camp of, I do not want a Jasper redemption arc. Do not give it to me. It will be like, I love self-destructive villains. I love that shit. I love villains who always get in their own way, who are still incredibly terrifying and incredibly effective, but they're their own undoing most of the time. And not in the clumsy way either. Like, I don't like a clumsy villain. Jasper wasn't clumsy. She was actually terrifyingly effective for the most part, even if she was a little bit brutish.
Oh, yeah.
But at the very end there, she had a chance to be saved, and she turns it down. And I'm happy about that. I'm very happy about that, because honestly, I loved the idea of her just like seeing it through to the very end. We already got Peridot. We had Lapis. We had Peridot. Give us a villain that really sees their own demise.
I have a theory, and this is the last thing I want to say about the Jasper stuff before we move on to episode 100 finally. I have a theory. I think that, especially, this is coming off of just the vibe I'm getting of the trio of Peridot, Lapis, and Jasper and their relations to each other, which are very, very, very different from the Crystal Gems trio. Excuse me. I think that she is going to come into play in terms of having to fight alongside the good guys at some point. I think that if they manage to find, which I have a feeling that they might discover a way to to purify a good Inuyasha term there, a corrupted gem, Jasper will owe them, and possibly even maybe it might even turn into a enemy of the enemy is my friend for the time being, in a very DBZ-esque kind of way, which has been the case with
first
Peridot,
of all,
certainly.
We're gonna have to find a cure for corruption first.
Yeah, which will be a whole major thing to itself. And I think it's safe to say that down the line, Yellow Diamond or possibly all of the diamonds are going to be involved. Wouldn't be surprised if they end up going to Earth, and wouldn't be surprised if the fact that Jasper, was an utter failure with her mission may have repercussions. So, I certainly don't think it's going to be as black and white as, eventually she's going to, turn over a new leaf and be a good guy. I think that Peridot, and they took their time with that, and that worked. Jasper, I don't see as having that happen, but I think that there is definitely going to eventually be some kind of, well, we have to fight alongside each other, or I have to help you, or whatever kind of thing. And I think that will be very interesting for whatever context that may or may not end up happening with. So, but that's just entirely my theory. But anyway, so Bismuth.
Let's get down to Bismuth.
Holy shit! To defeat the gems. You start. I've been talking for ages. My God.
Okay. Crazy eyes. I am so happy. First of all, let's just talk about Bismuth's design and her voice because they're both amazing. Bismuth's design is this gigantic blacksmith woman with dreads, and her voice is Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black, and I was in love from the moment she started to talk. Everything about her character is big, it's bold, it's brash, and it is lovable. Like, everything about her character is too good to be true. And that's immediately noticeable. You're like, okay, everything about you, you're like everything about her just seemed like, okay, so where is this? She was inside of Lion. Why?
All this time in the background of many, many, many other episodes.
Yeah, and a lot of people who have paid close attention have noticed that. I noticed that from the very beginning. I was like, what is that? Like, I was like, that is a bubble gem. What is that? Is that going to come back? And oh boy, it came back. Oh man, I am so glad that was a 20-minute episode.
Oh yeah,
that
absolutely.
needed to be a two-parter because the introduction and then the fall of Bismuth. By the way, can I just say real quick, one of my favorite things about that episode is the fact that they have commercial breaks. They have eye catches that have Bismuth in them. As if to fool the audience to say, by the way, here's some new eye catches and Bismuth's in there, so Bismuth's obviously going to be a new character.
Yeah, which were so Yu Yu Hakusho. I got such vibes of that, and I was like, oh, this makes me so goddamn happy.
Oh, absolutely. Positively. I was like, wow, this...
Yeah.
They knew exactly what they were doing, and I just absolutely loved the fallout from it.
So many twists all in the span of that 20 minutes, because like there were so many different ways it could have gone, so many stereotypical ways it seemed like it could have taken, like, with and then like, such and such, or like, oh man, but I don't remember you kind of thing, and like, oh, you're kind of taking my place or whatever. Nope. And then everybody loves her, and then you worry about like, oh, is she gonna end up being kind of a Mary Sue character or whatever? And then, the big twist with like why she was sealed away in the first place and why this whole thing happened with her, etc. And that showdown in the the lava infested smith shop between her and Steven.
That terrifying claustrophobic horror, like, some people have gotten like upset about the fact that she's still bubbled, and I'm like, she tried to kill Steven.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if you brought her out of that bubble, she would try it again. She was on the fucking hunt for him. Like, that scene, the moment that happened, after it was done, I was like, that's going to have an impact later. Like, that scene happened, and it's been kind of interesting because I've been talking to my friends when that happened, when Jasper happened, when freaking Ruby in space happened. I'm like, these scenes are traumatizing for a kid. They're terrifying. And like, so when that scene happened, all I could think of was, this is gonna have serious repercussions. And yeah, no, Bismuth, that whole scene, it's also kind of frustrating because when she's like, you know, she's yelling at Steven, like, how could you value the gems of our enemies over our own? And I'm like, she is in no part wrong to feel that way. Like,
that's the thing, yeah. Because even with the conclusion, like, I love how complicated everything about Bismuth is in terms of like, because she's so likable, she's so fun, she's so well executed in terms of like the show's production with like her, you know, like having a cool design, having a great voice, being so well animated. She looks, on a side note, she looks like Rebecca's old drawings, like her more like detailed, like comic book style kind of stuff she did, like before Steven Universe picked up. A lot of the drawings of her face in particular reminded me. I don't know if you or if anybody out there, if you've never seen Singles, which was Rebecca's thesis film when she was still at School of Visual Arts, represent. Bismuth looks like she is like the long lost like aunt of the character from that short, which I thought was super cool. But yeah, like just the complications of and the like morally gray shit that came with both sides of like, I'm a warrior. We're fighting a war here. Like, I have good reason for this. And Steven is like, I have good reason for wanting to stop this from happening, and we have to because of what's going on in the rest of the world right now and shit. Like, and how solemnly like, this sucks for everybody the ending is of that episode.
The
it's
ending
like
is a downer. It is a downer ending. There's no way around it.
Yeah, and yet it's so just like the whole thing is like, that was such a fucking amazing experience.
Yeah,
like start to finish.
Bismuth is up there in the top 10 episodes of the entire show, just because of the moral quandaries it explores, the characterization of Bismuth, the conflict that arises, and how it is dealt with. Oh man, like we see Steven stab a crystal gem and Poofer after she attacks him, trying to kill him. We see Steven go up against the biggest, most powerful, most dangerous enemy they've ever fought, turn him down to save her, and turn into a creature of just mindless terror. We see he has to fight for his life inside of a little bubble, floating in the middle of space, hundreds and thousands of miles away from the Earth. And it's what this show does to Steven is so, it's amazing. It's so, how do you put it? It's impressive. It's impressive that the show really just goes so far to show you like, this isn't easy. None of this is easy.
And especially because a lot of these events are all happening within like a relatively short amount of time.
Like a month.
And it's like Steven is going through this like roller, like, you know, it's like you fully believe like Steven is going through this roller coaster of emotions like at the same time, like in the same amount of time as we are. And it makes it so, and especially, which I think was why it was smart, kind of going back to the very beginning of this discussion with that they saved all these episodes up in a big bank and had the Summer of Steven marathon. I feel like the constant like updating of this just made it even like that much better, you know, in terms of like, you know, the real-time experience of everything happening. It's almost like the next day we were waking up and we were part of Steven's lives. Because you think about the whole show, this is a little bit more on a grand scale, but the whole show is told from Steven's perspective. Like, there's certain things they've talked about in interviews, like, for instance, like, we'll never know until we actually know, you know, through Steven's eyes when he's old enough. And, you know, we got a little bit closer with the Lars episode, for instance. The real relationship between Sadie and Lars, right? So, because it's all through Steven's eyes, and because he's a kid, and he doesn't have a full comprehension of everything, and he doesn't have a full scope and all the information about everything going on, we know as much as he does. We might know a little bit more because of our perspectives as people, and if we're older and we know what life is like, and we're able to read between the lines, such as Marty and Vidalia banging in the back of Craig's truck.
Yeah.
But but like that's what makes it, what's made this so effective as well, with the fact that like that like every day we were waking up and it's like, and now what the fuck is going to happen to these poor God people, and God people today, like and it was so incredibly like effective in how emotional every step of that was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was there any left you wanted to say about Bismuth, or do you want to move on to the end of season 3, more or less?
I feel like that's as much as I have about Bismuth for right now. Beautiful character, amazing episode, and that I believe actually that was right before the Jasper episodes too. So literally, you had Bismuth, and then the 2 episodes after that are the end of, quote unquote, end of Jasper.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we bounced around a little bit, but going back to that point, I guess, yeah, the last couple episodes of season 3, and then before we jumped right into season 4.
Yeah.
So we glossed over the baseball episode a little bit earlier.
With the most infuriating episode name ever in the entire show.
Oh, because of how much of it. You know what? I bet good money that maybe that might have even been the case, just because of like, hey, well, these leaks are happening, and there's nothing we can do about it. So why don't we at least troll people a little bit? Which I can appreciate that. And also it is actually a clever name as well. So so I'm mildly more forgiving of it. But either way, I understand the frustration. I love the Ruby team. Like, oh my god.
Oh no, the Rubies? Oh no, they're my favorite Guinea Force ever. They're the best.
Or rather, to be more specific, Ruby, and Ruby.
Yeah, no, they're the best. The Rubies.
I adore, even though they're all assholes. Well, not technically all of them, but they're placed in an antagonistic position. I adore them. They're adorable. So. Yeah, and the basically the 2-parter of Back to the Moon and then Bubbled made for for one thing, Back to the Moon ending in the way it did, with just like, oh god, I mean, I know that's not the end of the show, but oh god, And then, of course, with just having, I could even learn how to love. Like, everything's fine, guys. Here's the ending credit song. It's all good. Don't worry about
it. They know how to hit. I swear, the ending theme in Steven Universe is the most inappropriate song sometimes, and it's so good. Just out of nowhere, something terrible. Ah! If I could only learn
I could even learn how to love.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of which... it was funny because I saw a lot of people attempting to their best ability to piece together the various short versions of it that were all collectively made into one thing from the ends of various episodes' credits. And the season 3 finale, we got the full version played as basically an insert song for the one of the last scenes in the episode, and one of the last scenes of the whole season.
Yep.
Which was beautiful and so very anime, and I love it for that.
Yeah, no, it's a great song, great episodes. Yeah, no, season 3 ended spectacularly.
And also on another downer, really. Ended on another downer of like, great, so I've basically just learned that my mom had to kill this major character.
Yeah.
For, reasons whether or not I agree with them or that I know of them, even what the details are otherwise.
And it's pretty much confirmed that yeah, she did it. Everyone's saying it. There's no ambiguity here, which I'm happy for. I feel like if it is in fact if she did not kill her, that'd be such a cop-out.
No, and I mean, obviously, I don't think it's gonna be copped out. I think more so what's gonna come from it is that we're gonna find out, okay, well, clearly there had to have been if not a good reason, a very powerful reason as to why that happened.
Yeah. Knowing Rose, it was not a decision. I think that's the only kill she's ever made, and I'm expecting it to be a lot more complicated than we know.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
but then
So,
season 4, we're only a couple
yeah.
episodes
Well,
in.
season 3 was a hell of a ride from May to August already.
Well, it was actually the
you know.
second half of season 2, but they decided for some reason to split the seasons up.
Huh.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. I guess because season 1 was long.
season
and then
1 was
season
52 episodes.
Yeah, which is 26 half hours. So and then this was 2 sets of 26, 11 minutes.
Yeah,
So
so-
these combined together into 52. Yeah.
And I don't know why they did it. There must have been something in the production that made they probably have a reason. I just find it interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably not for anything bad. I think that just like the way that sometimes shows seasons can be structured depending on the release schedule and things like that. It might have just been divided up differently. Yeah. I imagine then probably from here on out that the seasons will be 26 11-minute ones. Yeah, so we're into season 4. Already we've had. I mean, we've left off by this one. We're recording this on Sunday the 18th. This will be going up on Tuesday. As of this past week, we're done for a little while. We don't know when the next set of episodes will be out. But we were back down to mostly an episode per week for a good while, and we ended on another set of some fun townspeople episodes and otherwise. But before that, I guess the last thing we'll kind of go into is this last little mini arc with the birth of Smoky Quartz as a consistent character, and then Mindful Education, which was another big episode that had another incredible song to it.
Mindful Education song is amazing for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Well, first of all, not the least of which is because I chose it for the Kirblog. Let's be totally honest. That's a very important reason, right? Sorry. The animation that went with it, of which was, I believe, directed by, I feel awful that I cannot remember the guy's name, but it was a Japanese animator who worked on
Takafumi Hori.
Okay. Who did specifically the animation of the silent while the song was playing interactions between Ruby and Sapphire and Stephen and Connie during the sort of mindscape that Garnet and Stevani are having in this sort of meditation session together. And as the song goes, Estelle and Stevani's actress, who escapes me, I apologize for that. Both wonderful, wonderful vocals on that one. Great lyrics. This song was actually, I don't know if you know this, Scott, but this song was actually previewed at Comic-Con a little while before. Yeah, so you saw Rebecca Sugar's version of it on stage first.
Which made me so excited. By the way, it's Amanda Joy Michalka?
Okay. Oh, that's right, Michalka. That's right.
Who I didn't even know
so we
she
saw
could
this
sing until I found out, she's in a band. She's in a musical
I had a
group.
feeling. I had a feeling that because I think the grand majority of them are musicians.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure you can only be cast in that show if you can sing at this point.
Well, not everybody, but I even Yellow Diamond, I believe, is a Broadway singer as well, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh man, just wait for that song.
Villain
song. Oh my god, if we get a Disney style villain song from Yellow Diamond, I will freaking freak.
Don't cock tease me with that thought, please, dear God. And this one, another case with, it's interesting how much Connie is having a lot of uncomfortable for kids kind of, subject matter that she goes through, really, her. It reminded me a lot of, I don't know if you remember this episode of Hey Arnold where Arnold is taking, karate because he gets mugged. And then he goes too far with it, and he ends up beating up, or not beating up, but he basically ends up taking out his aggression on these other kids, and it makes him have this oh my God, what am I doing kind of moment. Which I don't know, maybe for all I know that might have even been a partial inspiration to this. But Connie literally hating this kid, and which proved to be only half of it, and then it turns into a problem for Steven. and then they both have to work the shit out together, and it's like, oh my god, like stuff like that where it's just like you think it's gonna be like this, like, oh, it'll be this trope and it'll be this kind of episodes or whatever, just like as far as like, oh, it's the beach episode of this anime kind of thing almost, but then it's like, no, it's this now, and now this is how we're executing it, and it's so incredibly unique and so incredibly fucking powerful.
Yeah.
It's like, my god, like just this show, don't stop. Oh god, I love it so much.
Not to mention, and the really fascinating thing about that is the song itself is all about anxiety and how to deal with it. And it's a beautiful song. It's such a beautiful, amazing song.
That and it's over. Like those two songs in and of themselves, have become like staples in just the last 4 months. Like they've become like such, like, we've had a lot of legendary moments, but just those two songs by themselves like stand up so incredibly powerfully. Even past the show and the context of what they're presented in, like they are so good. And and having we haven't gone out on the note of mindful education. We've had a few more episodes to hold us over with, which have been fun too. But yeah, this has been a fucking ride, and this is just one of those shows where, honest to God, we're in season 4. I hope we get to season like 10, for Christ's sake. I'm not even kidding. Like there is so much, so many, and I'm curious for your thoughts about this, because like we have shows that, like, actually it was just recently announced regular show is coming to an end. And it's going to have an ending, like an actual ending, which I'm very, very happy about. And that went on for, I want to say, maybe Gumball. Oh, really? Okay, well, that's fine. And I'm very happy that American cartoons are adopting that now, that they don't fall into, I won't name names, but the shows that basically never end, and they kind of just get to a point where it's like, you jump the shark, and it's like, and now we've introduced Cousin Oliver type, Brady Bunch sort of shit, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I want the show to have an ending. Certainly, it is a show and a story that absolutely deserves it. But I want it to go on for a long time, because I want everybody, all of the incredible people behind the show, to continue to tell such powerful stories like this. Like so badly.
The interesting thing about this show is that once it's over, Rebecca Sugar's next show after this, I think, is going to be even better. I think the thing that
if
she
it's
does,
a show,
if it is a show, but I think the thing that she does after this will be even better. But the interesting thing, I think, is, and my personal opinion, we need an ending. We need a real ending. And I am scared, legitimately, that either the show will get canceled before we get a real ending, or will be dragged out way longer than it needs to be. I don't want this show to last any longer than
it needs to.
Yeah.
Right. Totally fair to think. And I think with how, okay, like you think about like Young Justice, shows like that, right? Where like they don't get the ending that they deserved, and who knows if they will. Keep watching it on Netflix. # keep binge watching. But sorry. But seriously, do that. And then you think about other shows that start off amazingly, and then depending on the setup that they have, like Pokemon, I consider to be very lucky that they've improved with each successive series between like Diamond and Pearl, Black and White, X and Y, and then Sun and Moon. I'm really looking forward to whatever's going to come of that, with how different it's going to be. But like American cartoons don't often get that kind of thing, and now we're getting more of that, which I think is great. And I think that with the way that Steven Universe's success has been found in the last couple of years it's existed, I have full confidence in the higher ups at Cartoon Network that nobody's going to do anything stupid. I really do think that the way that they've and actually I think that the Summer of Steven is proof of how we can trust that everybody involved with this, everybody seems to really genuinely know what they're doing with this now. I think that this was a smart decision to have this super long kind of setup and everything, with having this long of a binge of all these stories, of all this entire amount of material and everything, was a great idea. And I think that with the level of success that the show has, and the fact that regular show, for instance, went for I think about 6 seasons, and now it's getting an ending. And and then whatever comes next for J.G. Quintel will be next. And I look very much forward to whatever comes next for him, whether it's a show or otherwise. And I think Steven Universe will absolutely get an ending that is fitting and that it deserves. But I want it to go on for a long time, because I want to keep getting more and more amazing stories like this from these people, from these amazingly creative minds, and get such good material, and hopefully, as the maturity of the show has been growing, and the subject matter has been growing as well. Like, I can only imagine like what kind of shit that we're, because even again, like with the Townsfolk episodes have been getting more and more intense. I cannot even begin to imagine how good the stuff coming up is going to be, that I know that they're working on right now, because that's always how it goes, and I'm so incredibly curious about what's to come. Like, and yet, I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to wait now. Even though I joked in the lyrics earlier of like, yeah, we want more, but it's like, no, we've had a good fill. I'm okay with a break, and while I can wait, I am extremely looking forward to what's going to be coming next.
Ditto.
So yeah,
I just knew when.
That was
I wish I knew
super
when.
fucking long-winded.
I just wish I knew when. That's all.
Yeah. Well, that was extremely long-winded. Do you have any closing thoughts about everything that we've had, that we've been experiencing now since May?
Did we need an episode about Mr. Smiley?
Yes.
I mean, I love Sinbad, but really? No.
Yeah, it's not even Sinbad voicing him anymore either.
What?
Yeah, he hasn't been voicing him since then.
Oh my god.
So,
that's
yeah,
even
well,
worse.
Well, the new guy's been doing a good job though.
Nah, he's fine.
Although I imagine that was probably the point of the episode about him being a comedian, was that it was Sinbad, but things happen,
Yeah.
Voiceover. But
I
He
don't know. I guess
used to be a comedian.
used to. Scott, I'm surprised at you.
Right.
Yeah, I guess. Is there anything else left to say really about all this, or?
I'm really looking forward to the next episode. Its name is literally Gem Harvest, so we'll see what that's about.
Is
it's
it?
The name of the next episode is Gem Harvest.
Really?
So it's either going to be a really serious, really fascinating episode, or it's going to be about the crystal gems learning agriculture. We don't know. The name last one out of Beach City certainly threw me through a freaking loop. I was like,
oh.
we should probably
I'm
touch
sorry.
on that for a moment, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Oh my God. I was head over heels in love with how gay that episode was.
Yeah, by and large, I can take or leave both Future Boy Zoltron and Onion Gang. And even Buddy's book was like, it was okay. Last one out of Beach City is one of those episodes that is purely all, like, there is no plot movement, but it is amazing.
So good.
It is one of the best Pearl episodes in the entire show. Amethyst in the best role she can be as a sidekick character, and it is spectacular. It is some of the best Pearl stuff you'll ever see.
I do wonder about if
Punk
what
Diamond's
did she
gonna
sign
come
it
back.
as was what?
I call her Punk Diamond.
Oh, is that or punk quartz?
Yeah.
Rosie Schwartz.
Rosie Schwartz.
Is her human name? Oh my God. I do wonder. I do actually wonder about if she's gonna come much into play in the future. I am a little curious about that. Or whatever her name was. I forget the initial that she wrote down along with her number. Yeah, that was a treat, that episode.
Yeah, no, that was
I
I needed that, and I love how it had. I'm not gonna lie, the car driving in that episode was remarkably better than the car driving in the actual like Initial D parody episode.
Yeah. and the special guest Mike Kroll, Mike Kroll's music and his appearance in that episode was also really funny. I almost felt like I was watching a different show, or no, rather I was cool because I felt like I was watching I was watching these characters that I love from this show be in a different show, and that was really cool, like to see just like the contrast with that. But yeah, I'm curious about how Europe may or may not censor this episode.
You know, I'm gonna be freaking. How does Europe? Why is Europe censoring this?
I don't
anywhere?
know. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway,
Steven
I guess
Universe
that's
is
kind
the
of it.
gayest show ever made. I love it.
I love it too. My God. Well, until there's more, I guess that's gonna wrap us up. So, Scott, thank you for joining me for this madness of another almost 2 hours we spent on this.
Thank you for having me.
An hour and a half. Yeah. What are the 7 million things that you are working on right now that we can look forward to?
Well, right now I'm literally I have Premiere open and I'm working on episode 54 of Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I'm also working on some musical stuff for the channel. We've got a remaster remake of Make a Man Out of You. That's currently in production. We are also currently scripting episode 56. We've got pre-production starting on Broly, and there's a lot of cool things that we're talking about right now. It's Hellsing's in production.
Yes.
A lot of we're working on December. We have a lot of stuff that we're preparing for the fall and winter.
And I will be hopefully here at butt-fuck o'clock in the morning to keep Scott sane while he works on all 700 of these things up until the end of the year.
Well, you give me some lip service.
Yes, much of that. Which hopefully also soon, whenever maybe the next episode breakdown is coming out, you might be learning a little bit more about how that works.
Oh my God! I don't know if you're gonna see another one till January.
Oh God! Well, you know what? I think people will be okay with just more episodes.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the trade-off right now. As much as I would love to start putting up some more, I would love to start getting out some more episode breakdowns, but unfortunately, I have got to work on the actual episodes. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Can you believe it that we have to work on the main content that everybody wants? God. I'm looking forward to everything. I'm looking forward to a lot of things with your guys' show this year that I think are going to be really interesting. Well, thanks for coming on again. And everybody go check out Team 4-Star and follow Scott on Twitter and all the usual shit. I'll have links in the description. You know the drill. In the meanwhile, in the comments below, leave any and all thoughts you have about all of Steven Universe. Hopefully you are caught up if you've listened to this whole thing and, we haven't destroyed something for you.
Yes.
Leave your thoughts, hopes, dreams, aspirations, favorite moments, favorite episodes, anything about all throughout Season 3 and this beginning bit of Season 4. And if you have future Kirblog topic suggestions, leave some in the comments. Although I may not be getting to any new ones for a while because I have quite a bit planned very, very soon for the rest of this month and the rest of the year myself. And it's going to be pretty crazy, but I hope you all look forward to it. We got a lot of really cool stuff planned. Scott and I are also working together on a few things as well. And so that's it. That's it for me. That's it for Scott. And we will see you all next time. Bye.